I'm standing on my father's front porch on Christmas Eve at 6:47 p.m., and I can see my breath in the air. Each exhale comes out in these little white clouds that disappear almost immediately into the dark. The porch light is off. That's the first thing I noticed when the lift dropped me off 5 minutes ago. The porch light is off, but every other light in the house is on. I can see the warm glow through the curtains. I can hear Bing Crosby singing White Christmas from the speaker system I paid to have installed last year. My suitcase is beside me. It's one of those nice away carry-ons, the kind you see influencers use in dusty rows. I packed it carefully 3 days ago. The cashmere sweater my boss complimented, the pajamas I save for when I want to feel put together, the gifts wrapped in cream and gold paper that's still sitting in tissue in the bottom of the bag. I even brought the good wine, the $37 Pinot Noir, because Linda mentioned she was making her famous beef tenderloin. I rang the doorbell 2 minutes ago, then I knocked, then I rang again. And then the Ring doorbell camera clicked on, and Linda's voice came through the speaker. Not her face, just her voice, like I wasn't worth looking at. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice, the one she uses when she's about to say something cruel and wants plausible deniability later. "There's been a change of plans. We talked about this." "We didn't talk about this. It's just going to be immediate family this year, you know? We decided to keep it small and intimate. I'm sure you understand. You're always so busy anyway." Immediate family. I am his daughter. I wanted to say that. I wanted to say a lot of things, but my throat had closed up in this horrible, familiar way, the way it used to when I was 13, and she'd sigh dramatically about having to include me in the family photo, like I was a stain she couldn't quite get out. "Linda, I started, but she cut me off. We'll do something in the new year, okay? Maybe brunch. You love brunch. Okay, sweetie, I have to go. Turkey timer just went off. Merry Christmas." The speaker clicked off. I stood there for a full 30 seconds, just staring at the doorbell camera. I wondered if she was still watching me. I wondered if she wanted to see me cry. I didn't cry. That's the thing, I'm not that girl anymore, the one who used to cry in the bathroom at holiday dinners, the one who made herself small and quiet and grateful. I'm 34 years old. I run operations for 300 employees across 12 states. I have a corner office with glass walls and a view of the city skyline. Last month, I negotiated a $4 million contract and didn't blink. But standing on that porch, in the cold, with my pretty suitcase and my expensive wine, I felt exactly like I was 12 again. I could see the neighbors' houses. The Hendersons have one of those inflatable snow globes on their lawn, the ones with the little fan inside that makes the fake snow swirl. The Chens have white icicle lights dripping from their gutters. Everything looks like a Hallmark movie. Everything except me, locked out on Christmas Eve like some kind of Victorian orphan. I pulled out my phone. My fingers were already cold, a little numb. I opened the Uber app and requested a ride. Somewhere inside the house, someone laughed. It sounded like my father. The app said my driver was 4 minutes away. I picked up my suitcase and walked down the porch steps to wait by the curb because I wasn't going to let her watch me stand there like I was begging. The concrete was cold through the soles of my boots. I shifted my weight from foot to foot and told myself I was fine. I had a condo. I had a plan. I had a life. I just didn't, apparently, have a family. The headlights appeared at the end of the street at 6:51 p.m. A white Toyota Camry, exactly like the app said. It slowed down and pulled up to the curb, and I watched the driver lean over to look at the house numbers, then at me. And then his eyes went wide. "Ms. Harrison," he said it like a question, but he was already getting out of the car. "Oh, my boss, is that you?" I blinked at him. He was younger than me, maybe late 20s, wearing a puffer jacket and a knit beanie. He had one of those faces that looks kind by default, open and warm, and I knew him. It took my brain a second to catch up, but I knew him. Marcus. Marcus from the staff meeting last month. Marcus, who works third shift as a team lead at Redstone Logistics, one of our biggest contractor partners. I'd done a site visit in November, and he'd been part of the safety presentation. Sharp, detail-oriented, the kind of guy who actually reads the protocols. He'd asked a smart question about the new inventory software, and I'd made a note to follow up with his supervisor about a potential promotion track. And now he was here, staring at me standing on a dark porch on Christmas Eve with a suitcase, and I watched his brain do the same math mine was doing. "Marcus," I said, and my voice came out steadier than I expected. "Hi, yes, it's me." "Are you?" He looked at my suitcase at the house at me. "Is everything okay? Do you need?" "I just need a ride," I said. "Please." "Of course, yeah, absolutely." He moved immediately, taking my suitcase before I could protest and popping the trunk. He handled it carefully like it mattered, like I mattered. "Here, let me get that for you, boss." "Boss?" He said it automatically, the way he would at work, with that same easy respect. And something about hearing it here, in this context, on this street where I had just been shut out like I was nothing, it cracked something open in my chest. I walked to the back door. He was already there, opening it for me. "Thank you," I said quietly and slid into the seat. He closed the door gently and jogged around to the driver's side. The car was warm. There was a pine-scented air freshener hanging from the mirror and NPR playing low on the radio. It smelled like normalcy. Marcus got in and glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Where to, Ms. Harrison?" I rattled off my address downtown, and he nodded, putting it into his phone mount. But he didn't start driving right away. He half-turned in his seat. "I don't want to overstep," he said carefully, "but are you sure you're all right? You need me to wait or call someone or—" "I'm fine," I said. It was a reflex. Then I stopped because I was so tired of saying I was fine when I wasn't. "I mean, I will be, it's just family stuff." He nodded slowly, and I could see him choosing not to push. "Understood. Well, you just let me know if you need anything, okay? Anything at all." He was about to shift into drive when the porch light turned on. We both looked up. The front door opened, and Linda stepped out onto the porch in her cream cable-knit sweater. The one she bought on sale and told everyone was Talbot's. She was holding a trash bag, her excuse for coming outside, but she wasn't looking at the trash can. She was looking at the car, at Marcus, at me. I could see the exact moment she registered that someone else was here, witnessing this. Marcus saw her too. He didn't say anything, but his hand paused on the gear shift. Linda stepped forward, just to the edge of the porch. She did this little wave, tentative, like she was the uncertain one, like she hadn't just locked me out via intercom. "Everything okay out here?" she called, her voice sugary. Marcus looked at me in the mirror. I could see the question in his eyes. "Do you want me to say something?" I shook my head, just a tiny movement. "We're good," Marcus called back, his voice polite but firm, professional. Then, quieter to me, "Ma'am, you ready?" "Yes," I said, "please." He nodded once and put the car in drive. As we pulled away from the curb, I looked back one time. Linda was still standing there, the trash bag dangling from one hand, watching us go. The light from the house framed her like a picture, warm and golden and entirely fake. "Family stuff," Marcus said quietly, not quite a question. I watched the house disappear behind us as we turned the corner. "Not anymore," I said. He didn't ask anything else. He just drove, steady and calm, through the streets full of lights and wreaths and all the trappings of belonging. I leaned my head against the cold window and watched it all go by and felt something settle in my chest. Not peace exactly, but clarity. I was done. Marcus turned onto the main road and accelerated gently. After a moment, he said, "For what it's worth, Ms. Harrison, I hope the rest of your night is better than—" He gestured vaguely back the way we'd come. "It already is," I said, and I meant it. He met my eyes in the mirror and gave me a small, understanding smile. Then he reached forward and changed the radio station. Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas" filled the car, big and ridiculous and unironic. I almost laughed. "Too much?" he asked. "No," I said, "it's perfect." We drove through the decorated streets, past families and parties and all the places I wasn't wanted. And for the first time in as long as I could remember, I didn't feel like I was the problem. I felt like I was finally seeing the truth. I wasn't always this person, the one who gets locked out on Christmas Eve. I used to be the center of someone's world. My mom died when I was 10 years old. Ovarian cancer, stage 4, 8 months from diagnosis to hospice. I remember the specific weight of her hand when she got too weak to squeeze back. I remember how the hospital room smelled like antiseptic and something floral they used to try to cover it up. I remember my dad sitting in the chair by her bed with his head in his hands and how his shoulders shook. I remember being 10 years old and knowing, with this cold, certain knowledge, that nothing was ever going to be okay again. For 2 years, it was just me and Dad. He was a wreck. I was a wreck. We were a team of walking wounded, trying to figure out how to make dinner and remember permission slips and keep going when the center of our entire universe had collapsed. He'd forget to pick me up from soccer practice and then cry when he realized. I'd make him scrambled eggs for dinner and he'd tell me they were perfect, even though I always burned them a little. It wasn't good, but it was ours. We were each other's people. And then he met Linda. He met her at a grief support group, which seems almost cosmically ironic now. She'd lost her husband 3 years earlier, heart attack, sudden, tragic. She had a daughter from that marriage, Emily, who was a year younger than me. Linda was polished in a way my mom never was, coordinated outfits, hair always done, that kind of tight, bright competence that made her seem like she had everything under control. I think that's what my dad needed, someone who wasn't falling apart. They dated for 8 months. I tried to be happy for him. I did the thing where you smile and nod and say you like her, because you're 12 and you know your dad is lonely and you love him enough to want him to be less sad. Linda was nice to me in front of my dad. She brought me little gifts, asked about school, told me she loved my hair, my outfit, whatever. But when it was just us, there was this distance, like she was performing proximity but couldn't quite make herself close the gap. They got married 10 months after they met. I was 13. Emily was 12. We wore matching dresses in the wedding, lavender, tea-length, with little cap sleeves I hated. In the photos, we looked like sisters. We weren't. Linda moved into our house, the one my mom had painted and decorated and loved. Within 3 months, the paint colors changed. The furniture changed. The pictures of my mom came down, one by one, because it's hard for Linda to feel at home with another woman's things everywhere, sweetheart. You understand, right? I didn't understand, but I was 13 and I didn't have a choice. Emily got the bigger guest room because she has more things, and you don't want her to feel unwelcome, do you? I got the smaller one, the one that used to be Dad's office. At dinner, Linda would talk about her girls, but she meant Emily. When she said family movie night, she'd pick things Emily liked and then sigh if I asked for something else. You're always so particular, she'd say, smiling tightly. It's hard to please you. I learned fast that I was the problem. I was the one who made things hard. I was the one with all that grief and all that baggage and all that attitude. Emily was easy. Emily was sweet. Emily didn't remind anyone of the dead wife. I was the ghost at the table. Dad didn't see it, or he did, and he didn't know what to do about it, so he pretended he didn't. Whenever I tried to tell him, Linda didn't save me dinner, or Linda says I can't go to Sarah's party because it's family time but Emily's going to her sleepover. He'd give me this pained, exhausted look and say, she's adjusting. We're all adjusting. Can you just try a little harder? So I did. I tried so hard. I kept my room immaculate. I got straight A's. I joined the clubs Linda suggested. I babysat Emily when they wanted date nights. I made myself small and useful and quiet, and I told myself that if I could just be good enough, easy enough, unbroken enough, maybe she'd love me. She never did. By the time I was 16, I knew the truth. I was an obligation. I was the kid Linda had to take on to get my dad. And she was going to make sure I knew it in 1,000 small ways for as long as I lived under her roof. So I left as soon as I could. I got a full ride to a state school 4 hours away. Academic scholarships, need-based grants, the whole package. I worked 2 jobs all 4 years, campus library and weekend waitressing. I studied finance because I'd learned the hard way that money was the only security I'd ever have. I graduated summa cum laude with zero debt and a job offer at a regional consulting firm. I didn't ask my father or Linda for a single dollar. I taught myself that competence was safer than love. That spreadsheets didn't lie and contracts didn't change their minds, and if you were good enough at your job, people had to respect you, even if they didn't like you. I climbed fast. By 27, I was a senior analyst. By 30, I was a director. By 32, I was VP of operations for a mid-sized logistics and consulting firm with 12 regional offices and just under 300 employees. I made low six figures. I had the office, the title, the respect. I had everything except the one thing I'd wanted since I was 13 years old, for Linda to see me as worthwhile. And that, I'm realizing now as Marcus drives me through the cold, dark city, is the part that almost destroyed me. Because even after everything, after I built a whole life, a whole career, a whole identity as someone competent and successful, I still wanted her to love me. And I was willing to pay for it. It started 5 years ago, right around the time I made director. Dad called me on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the office, reviewing a vendor contract, and I almost didn't pick up because we only talked every few weeks by then, surface-level calls where he asked about work, and I asked about his health, and neither of us mentioned Linda. But I picked up. "Sweetheart," he said, and his voice had this shaky quality I hadn't heard since the hospital, since Mom. "I need to talk to you about something." He'd had a heart attack. Mild, the doctors said, but it was a warning. He needed to retire early. The small HVAC repair business he'd been running for 20 years, he had to sell it fast, and the buyer was lowballing him because Dad was desperate. Even with the sale, even with the early retirement package, they were going to be tight. The mortgage was underwater. Linda hadn't worked since they got married, and Dad said it didn't make sense for her to start now when he needed help managing his health. He didn't ask me for money, not directly. But I heard what he wasn't saying. I'd just gotten a raise. I was making $90K a year, which felt like monopoly money compared to the $32K I'd started at. I had savings. I had stability. And he was my dad, and he'd had a heart attack, and underneath all the scar tissue from Linda, I still loved him. "How much do you need?" I asked. The relief in his voice almost broke me. It started with $15,000 to cover the gap between the mortgage and what they could afford. Just temporarily, he said, just until they refinanced. Then it was the property tax bill, $4,200. Then the HVAC system died. Of course it did. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. And the replacement cost $12,000. I found a contractor, negotiated it down to $9,500, and paid it directly. Then Emily, my stepsister, Linda's golden child, got engaged, and Linda actually called me herself with this breathless, excited voice. "We're so thrilled, but weddings are so expensive and we want to give her something beautiful. You've done so well for yourself." She said it like an accusation and a compliment at once. "And we thought maybe you could help out. As a gift. Family helps family, right?" I sent $15,000. I didn't go to the wedding. I was too busy with work. Really, I just couldn't stand to watch Linda play mother of the bride, glowing and proud, in a dress I'd paid for at a wedding I'd funded, while treating me like a checkbook with legs. The pattern calcified. Car repair, medical copays, the cruise to Alaska they took for their anniversary. Linda posted pictures on Facebook, her and Dad on the deck with glaciers in the background, and she tagged it #blessed. I'd sent them $3,002 weeks earlier for an emergency roof repair. There was always something. And I always paid. I told myself I was helping my dad. I told myself this was what you did for family. I told myself that maybe, eventually, Linda would soften. She'd see that I wasn't the broken, difficult kid anymore. She'd see I was capable and generous and worth keeping around. I didn't tell them the full extent of what I was making. When Dad asked, I was vague. "I got a raise," or "work's going well," or "I had a good bonus this year." I think he assumed I was making maybe $60K, $70K comfortable but not wealthy. He never asked directly, and I never offered. Linda certainly didn't ask. She just accepted the checks, the Venmo transfers, the paid-off bills. She said, "Thank you the way you thank the cashier at the grocery store," reflexive, meaningless. And her treatment of me didn't change at all. I'd call to check on Dad, and she'd answer the phone with this weary sigh. "He's resting. You know how it is. Some of us are here taking care of him." The implication being, and you're not. Never mind that I'd just paid for his cardiac rehab copays. I'd visit for a long weekend, and she'd make a big show of making room for me, like I was an imposition. "We weren't expecting you to stay here. Don't you have that nice condo? But I suppose we can make up the guest room. Emily's girls usually use it when they visit, but I'll move their toys." Emily's girls. Emily's daughters, the grandchildren Linda paraded around on Facebook like trophies. I wasn't even 35 yet, unmarried, no kids, and Linda had this way of asking, "So, anyone special in your life?" with this patronizing sympathy that made it clear she thought I was defective. At Thanksgiving 2 years ago, Linda seated me at the kids' table. Actually, I was 32 years old, VP of Operations, and she put me with Emily's daughters, ages 6 and 9, because there wasn't enough room at the main table. There were 8 seats, 6 adults. I ate turkey next to a second grader and excused myself early, claiming a work emergency. Linda called me a week later asking if I could help with the property tax bill again. I sent the money. This past year, it got worse. In February, Dad mentioned they were thinking about downsizing. "The house is too much," he said. "Maybe a condo, something smaller." In March, Linda called asking for $6,000 for essential repairs before they could list it. In June, the house was still on the market. Actually, it had never been listed. I checked Zillow. In August, I was promoted to VP. My salary jumped to $140K plus bonuses. I didn't tell them. In October, Linda pocket-dialed me. I almost hung up, but then I heard her voice talking to someone, a friend, maybe Emily. She thinks she's so important with her little job. Still single, of course. I tell her we're family, she should come around more, but she's always too busy. Then she wants credit for sending a check now and then. It's the least she can do, considering how much we did for her. I sat in my car in the parking garage and listened to the whole 3-minute call before she realized and hung up. I cried for the first time in years. And then I stopped crying, and I started getting angry. The Monday before Christmas, Linda called me at work. My assistant patched her through before I could say I wasn't available. I considered not answering, but habits die hard. "Linda," I said, "what's up?" "Oh, honey, I'm so glad I caught you." Her voice had that brittle brightness that meant she wanted something. "Listen, I hate to ask, but we're in a bit of a bind. Property taxes are due again, and the credit card bill is higher than we expected. Christmas, you know how it is, and we're just a little short. Could you help us out with maybe $8,000? I know it's a lot, but we're family, and we'd pay you back, of course." $8,000. Just like that, like it was nothing. Of course we'd pay you back. They'd never paid me back, not once, not a dollar. I looked around my office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. My name on the door. The strategic planning documents for next quarter spread across my desk. I was overseeing a $4.3 million infrastructure expansion. And Linda thought I was someone she could call up and squeeze for $8,000 without even pretending. It was hard for her to ask. "I'll think about it," I said. There was a pause, a long one. "You'll think about it." Her voice went cold. "We need to know by Wednesday the payment is due." "Then I'll let you know by Wednesday," I said, and hung up. My hands were shaking. I opened my banking app. I went back through 3 years of statements, Venmo, Zelle, checks, wire transfers. I opened a spreadsheet and started listing. Mortgage payments, 18 months, $47,000. HVAC replacement, $9,500. Emily's wedding, $15,000. Car down payment, Linda's SUV, $8,000. Medical copays, various, $6,200. Property taxes, 3 installments, $12,600. Anniversary cruise, $3,000. Emergency, roof repair that I now suspected had funded the cruise, $3,000. Credit card bailouts, multiple, $11,400. Christmas gifts, birthday gifts, helping out, conservatively $8,000. Various other emergencies, $26,300. Total, $150,000. $150,000 in 3 years. I stared at the number. I'd given Linda and my father $150,000, and she just pocket-dialed me to call me self-important and say the money was the least I could do. I sat in my office until the sun set and the cleaning crew came through. The city lights blinked on below me, floor by floor, until the whole downtown glittered. I'd been trying to buy a family. And you can't buy something that was never for sale. I picked up my phone and texted Linda, I can't do the $8K right now. Sorry. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, wow, okay, good to know where we stand. I didn't respond. The next day, Tuesday, nothing. Wednesday, my dad called. I didn't pick up. He left a voicemail. Sweetheart, Linda said you can't help this time. That's okay, we'll figure it out. We'll see you Christmas Eve, right? Linda's making the beef tenderloin. Love you. Thursday, I got the text from Linda. Change of plans for Christmas. We've decided to keep it just immediate family this year. Me, your dad, Emily, and her crew. I'm sure you understand. You're always so busy anyway. We'll catch up in the new year. I read it 3 times. Immediate family. I wasn't immediate family. But I was an immediate ATM. I looked at the spreadsheet still open on my laptop. $150,000. I opened a new message to Linda. Then I closed it. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to explain or defend or justify. I was going to stop. I screenshotted the spreadsheet. I screenshotted Linda's text. I screenshotted the Venmo history, the bank transfers, all of it. And then I started packing for a Christmas I'd apparently been uninvited from. Christmas Day, I woke up alone in my condo at 9:47 a.m. No stockings, no cinnamon rolls, no dad shuffling into the kitchen in his bathrobe like he used to when I was little, before everything fell apart. Just me, in my king-sized bed with a weighted blanket and the view of the downtown skyline, in the beautiful, silent life I'd built. I made coffee. I sat at my kitchen island, quartz countertops, pendant lights, the kind of kitchen Linda would kill for, and I opened my laptop. I was going to do what I do best, financial analysis. If I was going to amputate my family, I was going to know exactly what I was cutting off. I pulled up every financial record from the last 5 years. Bank statements, credit card statements, Venmo, Zelle, PayPal, paper checks I'd photographed for my records. I created a master spreadsheet with dates, amounts, stated purposes, and actual purposes where I could verify them. The mortgage payments started month after month like clockwork once I realized Dad wasn't going to ask directly. He'd just mention things are tight, and I'd get the bank info from him and set up a transfer. 18 months at $2,611 per month. I stopped 6 months ago when I started to feel the resentment build, but by then, $47,000. The HVAC replacement, $9,500. I'd called the contractor myself, negotiated, paid directly. Linda never even thanked me. She complained it was too loud. Emily's wedding, that one still stung. $15,000 for a wedding I wasn't even invited to be in. I was a guest, not a bridesmaid. Emily had her friends and Linda's nieces, just a guest who funded the open bar. The car, Linda had test-driven a Lexus. I talked her down to a Toyota Highlander and covered the $8,000 down payment. She posted a picture on Facebook with the caption, "Hubby surprised me," with a heart emoji. medical copays for Dad's cardiac rehab, his medications, his quarterly cardiology appointments. $6,200. These I didn't regret. These were for him. Property taxes, $12,600 over 3 bills. The house was in both their names, but Linda always called to ask for help with this one, and she always made it sound like they'd lose the house if I didn't pay. The anniversary cruise, Linda had asked for $3,000 for a roof emergency. 3 weeks later, pictures from Alaska appeared on Facebook. I'd reverse image searched one out of spite and found the cruise line. 7 nights, balcony room, I'd paid for it. Christmas gifts, birthday gifts, the random thinking of you, money I'd send to prove I was thoughtful, that I cared, that I was worth keeping. Conservatively $8,000, but probably more. And the miscellaneous. The washer-dryer that broke, the fence repair, the vet bill for their dog, the summer when the AC broke again, Emily's hospital bill when one of her daughters broke her arm, the deposit for the retirement party they threw for Dad at a restaurant. $150,000. But wait. I went back further to right after Dad's heart attack, the initial loan. Another $15,000 I'd almost forgotten because it was temporary, and they'd pay me back as soon as the business sold. $165,000. $165,000. I sat back and stared at it. With that money, I could have bought a small house outright in the suburbs. I could have paid off my condo. I could have retired 5 years earlier. Instead, I'd given it to people who locked me out on Christmas Eve. My phone buzzed. A text from my mentor, Jordan, the woman who'd hired me at the consulting firm and taught me everything about contract negotiation and strategic thinking. Merry Christmas, superstar. Hope you're doing something fabulous and not working. I stared at the text for a long moment, then I called her. Please tell me you're not in the office, she said by way of answer. I'm home, can I ask you something? Her voice shifted. Of course, what's wrong? I told her, not everything, I didn't have the energy for everything, but the broad strokes. The years of financial support, the lockout, the spreadsheet in front of me. She was quiet for a long time. How much? She finally asked. $165,000. Jesus Christ. Yeah. And they locked you out on Christmas Eve. Yep. Another pause, then, what are you going to do? I don't know. Yes, you do. Her voice was firm. You're one of the smartest strategists I've ever worked with. You know exactly what to do. You're just afraid to do it. I don't want to blow up my family. Sweetheart, Jordan said gently, they already did that. You've been setting yourself on fire to keep them warm. What happens when you stop? I looked at the spreadsheet. They freeze, I said quietly. Yes, and that's not your fault. That's consequences. We talked for another 20 minutes. She told me about her own mother, who'd bled her dry emotionally for decades before Jordan finally went no contact. She told me that boundaries weren't cruelty. That family wasn't a free pass for exploitation. When we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Certainty. I pulled up LinkedIn, not even sure why. Just restless energy, I guess. I searched for Marcus Thompson, the Uber driver who'd picked me up last night. There he was. Marcus Thompson, warehouse shift lead at Redstone Logistics. Redstone, we contracted with them for 3 of our regional distribution centers. I'd been to the facility in November for a site safety audit. Marcus had been part of the presentation team, sharp, thoughtful, exactly the kind of frontline lead we needed more of. He'd seen me at my lowest moment, standing on that porch with my suitcase. And he'd called me boss anyway. I clicked over to my work email and searched Redstone. Found the site visit notes. Marcus was flagged by the regional manager as high potential recommend for supervisor training track. I made a note to follow up on that next week. Then I went back to my spreadsheet and added one more column. Date support ends. I filled it down, every row, one date. January 31st. 60 days. I'd give them 60 days notice like a lease, professional, clean. And then I was done. I saved the file, backed it up. And then, for the first time in as long as I could remember, I enjoyed Christmas. I ordered Thai food. I watched Love Actually and cried at the Colin Firth part like I always do. I took a bath with the expensive bath salts I'd been saving. And I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The day after Christmas, I called my estate attorney. Rebecca had handled my will and my condo purchase, and she was exactly the kind of lawyer I needed. Sharp, no nonsense, and completely uninterested in drama. When I explained the situation, she didn't gasp or offer sympathy. She just said, "Let me pull up your file. Talk me through the financial entanglements." I went through it all. The mortgage payments I'd been making directly to the lender. I'd set up as an authorized payer but wasn't on the deed or the loan. The Venmo transfers, the checks, all of it documented but informal. Nothing in writing that said loan or gift or anything legally binding. "Good," Rebecca said. "That makes it clean. You have no legal obligation to continue support. The mortgage is in their names. The accounts are theirs. You've been making voluntary payments. Can they come after me for it? Say I promised or..." "Did you?" "No, I just sent money when they asked." "Then no, gifts are gifts. If they wanted a formal loan, they should have drawn up paperwork. You're clear." She paused. "But I'm guessing you want to do this carefully." "I don't want to blow up my life. I just want to stop lighting myself on fire." "Then we do it in writing. Formal, polite, unambiguous. Gives you documentation if things get ugly later." We drafted a letter together. It took 4 revisions to get the tone right, firm but not cruel, clear but not defensive. It read, "Dear Dad and Linda, asterisk. After careful consideration of my financial situation and future planning, I am writing to inform you that I will no longer be able to provide financial assistance. Effective February 1st, all support, including mortgage payments, medical expenses, and emergency funds, will cease. I encourage you to make alternative arrangements and to consult a financial advisor if needed. I'm happy to help you locate resources for budgeting or refinancing. This decision is final. I wish you both well." No explanation, no justification, no emotion. Rebecca approved it. "When are you sending it?" "January 2nd. I want it to arrive while they're still in the holiday glow, before they ask me for anything else." "Smart, and brace yourself, they're going to push back." "I know." "Do not engage," Rebecca said. "Do not explain, justify, or defend. The letter says it all. Anything else is just giving them ammunition." I printed the letter on my nice stationery, the cream cardstock with my initials. I signed it by hand. I made 3 copies, one for my records, one for Rebecca's file, one to mail certified with return receipt. Then I handled the mortgage. I called the lender and explained that I'd been making payments on behalf of the borrowers but would be stopping. They didn't care. I wasn't on the loan, wasn't liable. My payments were just extra money as far as they were concerned. I asked them to note in the file that payments from my account would end January 31st. They said sure, noted it, asked if there was anything else. It was shockingly easy. I updated my will while I was at it. I'd had Dad as my executor and beneficiary. I changed it to Jordan, my mentor, and split my assets between a scholarship fund and an animal rescue. Linda and Dad got nothing. If I died tomorrow, they wouldn't see a dime. That felt better than it probably should have. I also called my company's HR department, discreetly. "This is sensitive," I told Shanice, the HR director I'd worked with on the operations side for years. "I'm dealing with some family conflict that might spill into work. I don't anticipate it, but I want you aware." "What kind of conflict?" "Financial boundary setting. I've been supporting family members who have become entitled. I'm cutting them off. They may try to contact me here or show up." Shanice didn't miss a beat. "Do you feel unsafe?" "No, just harassed potentially." "Okay, I'll flag it with front desk security. If anyone shows up claiming to be family and you haven't cleared them, they don't get past the lobby. And if they call, we'll say you're unavailable and take a message. Thank you. We've got you, she said. And for what it's worth, good for you. Family stuff is hard. I also changed Linda's contact in my phone to do not answer and turned off notifications. I didn't block her. I wanted to see if she tried to reach me for documentation, but I didn't want to hear it in real time. And then I waited. January 2nd, I mailed the letter. January 4th, it was delivered. I got the notification from USPS that someone at the address had signed for it. Then, silence. For 6 days, nothing. I went back to work. We were in the middle of Q1 planning, and I had 3 site audits scheduled for January. I buried myself in logistics reviews and contractor evaluations and budget projections. I was good at my job. My job made sense. My job had clear rules and measurable outcomes. My job didn't lock me out on Christmas Eve. On January 10th, my phone lit up with 7 missed calls from Linda. I was in a meeting. I saw the notifications stack up on my Apple Watch and felt my stomach drop, but I didn't move. I just kept listening to the quarterly safety report and taking notes. When the meeting ended, I checked my voicemail. Hi, sweetie, it's Linda. Call me back when you get a chance. Beep. It's me again. We got your letter. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. Call me. Beep. This is ridiculous. Pick up the phone. Beep. Your father is very upset. You need to call and explain what's going on. Beep. 4 more in the same escalating tone, from wheedling to demanding. I didn't call back. Instead, I forwarded the voicemails to my personal email, backed them up, and sent a brief text. The letter is clear. There's nothing to discuss. Her response came in under 30 seconds. You can't be serious. We need that money. Your father's health. How can you be so selfish? I turned my phone face down and went back to work. That afternoon, my assistant buzzed me. Ms. Harrison, there's a Linda Harmon here to see you. She says she's your stepmother. My heart kicked into overdrive, but I kept my voice level. Tell her I'm unavailable. She's insisting. She says it's a family emergency. I stood up, smoothed my skirt, and checked my reflection in the dark window. I looked exactly like what I was, a professional woman in a charcoal sheath dress and heels, in her own office, in her own building. I'll handle it, I said. I took the elevator down to the lobby. My office was on the 9th floor of a mid-rise downtown, all glass and steel and polished concrete. The lobby had 20-foot ceilings, a living wall of ferns, and a security desk that didn't mess around. Linda was standing near the entrance, and she looked out of place. She was wearing jeans and a fleece pullover, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked small and ordinary in a space designed to intimidate. When she saw me step out of the elevator, her face twisted into something between relief and anger. I walked toward her, and I watched her take me in. The dress, the heels, the badge clipped to my belt that said Harrison VP Operations in crisp lettering. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. You can't just cut us off like this. Do you understand what you're? Linda, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. You need to leave. I drove an hour to get here. You owe me a conversation. I don't owe you anything. Her voice pitched louder. People in the lobby were starting to glance over. Employees, visitors, the receptionist. After everything we did for you, after we took you in, gave you a home, treated you like our own. You locked me out on Christmas Eve. That stopped her, just for a second. That was a misunderstanding, she said, but her voice wavered. No, it wasn't. Your father needs that mortgage payment. We can't afford. Then you'll need to make other arrangements. I told you that in the letter. How can you be this cruel? Her eyes were shining now, turning on the tears. We're family. And God, I had heard that so many times. We're family. Family helps family. After everything we've done. I looked at her, this woman who had spent 20 years making me feel like I was too much and not enough all at once, and I felt nothing. If we were family, I said quietly, you wouldn't have needed my money to tolerate me. Her face went red, then white. The security guard stepped forward. "Ma'am, is there a problem?" Linda looked at him, then at me, then at the small audience we'd gathered. "You're going to regret this," she said, her voice shaking. "I really don't think I will." I nodded to the guard. He moved to Linda's side, not touching her but making his presence clear. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to leave the building." Linda opened her mouth, closed it, then turned and walked toward the door. At the threshold, she turned back. "Your father is going to be so disappointed in you." "He's been disappointed in me since I was 12, I said. "I'll survive." She left. I stood there for a moment, my heart pounding, and then I turned and walked back to the elevator. My hands were shaking. I clasped them behind my back so no one would see. When I got back to my office, I closed the door, sat down at my desk, and let out a long, shaky breath. My phone buzzed. A text from Shanice in HR. "Security flagged the lobby incident. You okay?" I typed back, "I'm fine. Thank you for the heads up earlier." "Anytime. Let me know if she comes back." I sat there in my quiet office, looking out at the city, and felt something crack open in my chest. I'd done it. I'd held the line. It didn't feel good exactly, but it felt right. Linda didn't come back to the office, but the calls started. Not from her, from everyone else. First, my Aunt Carol, my dad's sister, who I saw maybe once every 3 years. "Honey, your dad called me very upset. He says you've cut them off financially. I'm sure there's been some kind of confusion." I kept it simple. "No confusion. I supported them for several years. I can't continue." "But he's your father." "I know. He's struggling." "I'm aware. I've asked him to make other arrangements." A long pause. "That seems very cold." "I'm sorry you feel that way." She tried a few more angles. Guilt, family obligation, what would my mother think? And when none of them worked, she said she'd pray for me and hung up. Then my cousin Jennifer. Then Linda's sister, whose name I barely remembered. Then Emily, my stepsister, who I hadn't spoken to in 8 months. "I don't know what's going on with you," Emily said, her voice tight, "but my mom is in tears. She said you were cruel to her at your office." I asked her to leave. She showed up unannounced. "She was trying to talk to you." "I sent a letter. There's nothing to talk about." "You really think you're something, don't you?" Emily's voice was shaking now. "You always acted like you were better than us. Now you've got some fancy job and you can't be bothered with your own family." "Emily, I paid for your wedding." Silence. "What?" $15,000. The venue deposit, the catering, the bar. I paid for it. Did you know that? More silence. Mom said Dad's business. "I paid for it, and I wasn't even a bridesmaid. I was a guest." Why didn't you say something?" "Because I wanted you to have a beautiful wedding, because I thought that's what family did." My voice cracked, just a little. "I gave your mother $165,000 over 5 years, and she locked me out on Christmas Eve because I couldn't give her another $8,000. So no, I don't think I'm better than you. I just think I'm done." I hung up. My hands were trembling again. I hated this. I hated all of it, the confrontations, the explanations, the justifications I kept saying I wouldn't give but kept giving anyway. I texted Jordan, "How long does the flying monkey phase last?" She replied immediately, "A few weeks. Then they'll either give up or escalate. Hold the line, you're doing great." The calls kept coming for another week. People I hadn't heard from in years, suddenly very concerned about family unity. I started letting them go to voicemail. If they left a message, I'd text back, "I appreciate your concern. This is between me and my father. I'm not discussing it further." Most of them stopped after that. But Dad didn't call. For 2 weeks, nothing from him directly. Just the emissaries, the messages passed through other people, the waves of guilt sent my way. And then, on January 23rd, an email. Subject, "Can we talk?" Sweetheart asterisk. "I don't understand what's happening. Linda showed me the letter you sent. She told me about the office. I don't know where this is coming from." Can we meet for coffee, just the two of us? I want to understand. I love you. Dad. I read it 4 times. He didn't know where this was coming from. $165,000, and he didn't know. I closed my laptop and stared at the wall of my living room. The condo was quiet. It was always quiet. I'd bought it because it was beautiful and safe and mine, and some nights the silence felt like peace, and some nights it felt like loneliness. Tonight it felt like clarity. I wrote back. Dad asterisk. Coffee is fine, just us. Saturday at 10, the place on Madison near the bookstore. I'll bring documentation. Love you too. Saturday morning was cold and bright. I got to the coffee shop early, ordered a latte, and sat in the back corner with a folder. Inside the folder, printed bank statements, the spreadsheet, a timeline. Dad arrived 10 minutes late, looking older than I remembered. His hair was grayer. He'd lost weight. He saw me and tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. He ordered coffee and sat down across from me. Hi, sweetheart. Hi, Dad. We sat there for a moment, awkward, and I realized I couldn't remember the last time we'd been alone together. Really alone, without Linda orchestrating. I don't want to fight, he said finally. I don't either. Then what's going on? Linda said you just cut us off, no warning. I sent a letter. That's not a conversation. You're right. I opened the folder and slid the spreadsheet across the table. This is. He looked down. I watched his face as he read the line items, the dates, the amounts. His face went pale. This is, he trailed off. $165,000, over 5 years. He looked up at me and I saw it, genuine shock. He really didn't know. I thought it was a few thousand here and there. I thought you were helping out, but I didn't. Linda said you had a good job, but... I'm a VP, Dad. I make low 6 figures. I've been making serious money for years. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you ask? He flinched. I pointed to the mortgage line. 18 months of payments. $2,611 a month. I paid directly to the lender. Linda said we got a forbearance. No, you got me. He was quiet, staring at the paper. The HVAC, Emily's wedding, the car, the cruise. I kept my voice even. I paid for all of it, and Linda locked me out on Christmas Eve because I told her I couldn't send another $8,000. She said it was a miscommunication. She said there wasn't room. There was room, Dad. There's always been room. I just wasn't worth making room for. His eyes filled with tears, and I felt my chest tighten. That's not true, he whispered. Isn't it? I leaned forward. When's the last time you stood up for me? When's the last time you told Linda she was wrong when she dismissed me, or excluded me, or made me feel like I was a burden? He opened his mouth, closed it. She's been doing this for 20 years, and you've let her. I thought you two just didn't get along. I thought it was normal stepfamily stuff. I gave her $165,000, and she told someone on the phone that sending a check now and then was the least I could do. I heard her, Dad. She pocket-dialed me. He put his head in his hands. We sat there in the coffee shop, the Saturday morning crowd buzzing around us, and I felt the full weight of it, the love I still had for him, the anger, the grief for what we could have been. What do you want me to do? He asked finally. I want you to figure it out without me. My voice broke just a little. I love you, but I can't keep doing this. I can't keep paying for a place at a table I'm not even welcome at. You're always welcome. No, Dad, I'm not really, and you know it. He looked at me and I saw it in his face. He did know. Maybe he'd always known. I'm not asking you to leave her, I said. I'm not asking you to choose. I'm just asking you to let me go. I don't want to lose you. Then we'll have coffee once a month, just us, and we'll figure out what our relationship looks like without Linda and without money. He nodded slowly, tears sliding down his face. I'm sorry, he said. I'm so sorry. I know. We sat there a little longer. He asked about work. I asked about his health. We didn't fix anything, but we also didn't break anything worse. When we left, he hugged me in the parking lot and he felt fragile. "I love you, kiddo," he said. "I love you too." I drove home and cried in my car for 20 minutes. And then I went inside and I started living my life. February came quietly. I stopped checking my phone every time it buzzed, stopped bracing for Linda's name to appear. The calls from relatives had tapered off. Dad and I had coffee twice, stilted, careful conversations where we talked about his physical therapy and my work travel and skirted around everything that mattered. But we were talking. That was something. Work consumed me in the best way. We were rolling out a new supply chain efficiency program across all 12 regions, and I was neck-deep in implementation. It was complicated and demanding and exactly what I needed, problems I could actually solve. On February 14th, my boss Sarah called me into her office. "So, the Regional Leadership Summit is March 8th, she said. "You know you're receiving the Operations Excellence Award, right?" I blinked. "I'm what?" "Don't play modest. You overhauled 3 distribution centers, brought 2 major contracts in under budget, and your employee retention numbers are the highest in the company. You're getting the award. Black tie, the Meridian Hotel, the whole thing. Prepare a 3-minute acceptance speech." I left her office in a daze. The Regional Leadership Summit was the company's biggest annual event, 400 people, all our executives, major clients, contractor partners, local business press. It was the kind of night that could make careers. And I was getting an award. I called Jordan that night. "I don't have anything to wear to a black tie event." She laughed. "Yes, you do. We're going shopping. This is happening." The next Saturday, she dragged me to a boutique I'd walked past 100 times but never entered. I tried on 6 dresses and hated myself in all of them, and then the sales associate brought out a 7th. It was deep emerald green, fitted through the bodice with a flowing skirt off the shoulder sleeves. Elegant, powerful. When I put it on and looked in the mirror, I didn't see the girl who got locked out on Christmas Eve. I saw someone who'd survived. "That's the one," Jordan said. I bought it, and shoes, and earrings. I was doing this right. The week before the summit, I got the event program. I skimmed the award recipients and stopped at the contractor recognition section. Employee Safety Leadership Award. Marcus Thompson, Warehouse Lead, Redstone Logistics. Marcus. I smiled. He deserved it. He'd implemented a new equipment check system that had reduced workplace injuries by 40%. I'd read the report when his supervisor submitted him for the award. I wondered if he knew I'd be there. March 8th arrived cold and clear. I spent the afternoon getting ready with the kind of care I usually reserved for board presentations. Hair in a low chignon, makeup subtle but polished. The green dress fit perfectly. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. I looked like someone who belonged. The Meridian Hotel ballroom was transformed. Chandelier lighting, round tables with white linens, a stage with the company logo projected in soft gold. I arrived early, checked in at the registration table, and saw my name on the seating chart. Head table, next to Sarah and the regional VP. People were already filtering in. Colleagues I'd worked with for years, dressed in tuxes and gowns, suddenly formal and almost unrecognizable. I chatted with a few, accepted congratulations, and tried to calm my nerves. And then I saw Marcus. He was across the room in a suit that looked new, talking to a group from Redstone. When he saw me, his whole face lit up. "Ms. Harrison," he excused himself and came over. "Wow, congratulations on your award." "Congratulations on yours," I said. "That safety program was brilliant." He ducked his head, embarrassed. "Just trying to keep people from getting hurt." "That's leadership." We talked for a few minutes, easy, warm, the kind of conversation that reminded me why I loved this work. He was good people. When his supervisor called him over for photos, he gave me a little salute. "See you up there, boss." I found my seat at the head table. The room was filling up now, the noise level rising. I scanned the crowd out of habit, recognizing clients and partners, and my heart stopped. Linda. She was near the back, standing by the doors, scanning the room. She was wearing a dress I didn't recognize, her hair done, makeup on. She looked out of place and determined, and when her eyes found me at the head table, her expression flickered through confusion, shock, and something that looked like panic. What was she doing here? My stomach dropped. The event was semi-public. If you knew about it, you could buy a ticket. She must have Googled me, found the company website, seen the announcement. She'd come to see if it was real. I turned away, pulse hammering. I caught Sarah's eye and leaned over. My stepmother just walked in. Long story, but we're estranged. If she tries to approach me, I may need help. Sarah's expression went sharp and protective. Say the word. The lights dimmed. The program started. Dinner service, welcome remarks, a video about company milestones. I barely tasted the food. I kept glancing toward the back of the room, but I'd lost sight of Linda in the crowd. Then came the awards. They started with the contractor recognitions. When Marcus's name was called, the room erupted in applause. He walked to the stage looking stunned and proud, accepted the crystal plaque, and gave a short speech about teamwork and safety culture. He was genuine and funny and humble, and the room loved him. As he walked off stage, he caught my eye and grinned. Then it was my turn. Sarah took the podium. Our next award recognizes operational excellence and transformational leadership. This year's recipient led a supply chain overhaul that resulted in a 23% efficiency increase and brought in $4.3 million in new contracts. She oversees 12 regional sites and nearly 300 employees, and her team retention rate is the highest in company history. It's my genuine honor to present the Operations Excellence Award to our VP of Regional Operations, Catherine Harrison. The applause was thunderous. I stood, smoothed my dress, and walked to the stage. The lights were bright. I could see the first few rows clearly, then everything dissolved into silhouettes and shadows. I shook Sarah's hand, accepted the award, a beautiful glass sculpture that caught the light, and stepped to the microphone. I'd prepared a speech, 3 minutes about teamwork and gratitude and strategic vision. I looked out at the room, and my eyes adjusted enough to see Linda. She was standing now, near the side wall, staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. I started talking. Thank you. I'm honored to receive this, and I want to start by thanking my team, the leads, the coordinators, the frontline staff who do the real work every single day. Leadership is nothing without people who believe in the mission. I thanked Sarah, the executive team, our partners. I talked about the supply chain project, the challenges, the wins. And then I went off script. I also want to say something personal if you'll indulge me. I took a breath. 5 years ago, I was in a very different place in my life. I didn't believe I was capable of this. I didn't think I deserved a seat at tables like this one. I'd spent most of my life being told, in subtle and not-so-subtle ways, that I was too much or not enough, too needy, too damaged, too difficult. The room was silent. But I had mentors who saw something different. I had colleagues who respected my work. I had a career that rewarded competence and effort, not performance of who people wanted me to be. And I learned that the people who are supposed to love you don't make you earn it. They don't charge interest. They don't lock you out. I saw Linda's face go white. I learned that boundaries aren't cruelty, that you can love people and still walk away. That sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. My voice was steady. I wasn't angry. I was just telling the truth. So to anyone in this room who's ever felt like they weren't enough, you are, exactly as you are. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Thank you. The room erupted. People stood. The applause rolled over me in waves, and I stood there holding my award, shaking, and feeling like I'd just jumped off a cliff. I walked off stage. Sarah grabbed my hand and squeezed it. That was perfect, she whispered. I made it back to my seat, and the program continued, but I couldn't focus. My heart was pounding too hard. When the formal program ended and the reception started, I stepped outside the ballroom into the hallway to catch my breath. Marcus found me there. He handed me a glass of water without a word. "Thank you," I said. "That took guts, boss." I laughed, a little shaky. I don't know what I was thinking. "You were thinking the truth needed to be said." He paused. "For what it's worth, some of us needed to hear it." Before I could respond, the ballroom doors opened, and Linda came out. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. When she saw Marcus standing there, she hesitated. "Catherine," she said, "can we talk?" "No." "I had no idea you were, that your job was." She gestured helplessly back toward the ballroom. "I know, you never asked." "If I'd known." "It wouldn't have mattered." I kept my voice level. "You locked me out on Christmas Eve because I couldn't give you another $8,000. You took $165,000 from me over 5 years and never once said thank you. You treated me like a burden and a bank account. So no, Linda, we can't talk." Her face flushed. She glanced at Marcus, aware of the witness. "You're being dramatic. Families have disagreements, but—" "We're not family." The words came out clean and final. "We never were, not to you." "I raised you." "No, you tolerated me. There's a difference." People were starting to come out of the ballroom now, flowing into the hallway, and Linda was aware of the audience. She tried one more tactic, her voice dropping, going soft. "Please, your father misses you." "Then he can call me himself. We have coffee once a month. He knows how to reach me." "He's struggling. We both are, without your help." "You'll figure it out. That's what you told me to do my whole life. I'm sure you're very resourceful." I turned to walk back into the ballroom. Linda's voice rose, desperate. "After everything I did for you." I stopped, turned back. "What did you do for me, Linda? Specifically?" She opened her mouth, closed it. "You gave me a place to live in my own father's house. You fed me, clothed me, the bare minimum of what's legally required when you marry someone with a child. You want credit for that." "I didn't have to be kind." "You weren't kind." My voice didn't rise. I didn't need it to. "You were cold. You were dismissive. You made me feel like a charity case for 20 years. And the second I stopped paying you, you threw me away." The hallway had gone quiet. A small crowd had gathered, colleagues, people from the event, all watching. Linda's eyes were wild now, cornered. "You can't do this. You can't humiliate me like this." "I'm not humiliating you," I said quietly. "I'm just not protecting you anymore. There's a difference." Marcus stepped closer to me, a silent show of support. Linda looked at him, at me, at the crowd, and something in her crumbled. "You're going to regret this," she said, but her voice wavered. "I really won't." She stood there for another moment, and then she turned and walked toward the exit. Her steps were quick, unsteady. She didn't look back. I watched her go, and I felt something release in my chest. Marcus touched my elbow gently. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, and I was surprised to find it was true. "I really am." We went back into the ballroom. A few people glanced at me, curious, but most had missed the hallway drama. I rejoined my table, finished my drink, and let myself enjoy the rest of the night. When I left the hotel at midnight, still in my green dress, holding my award, I felt lighter than I had in years. The fallout came fast. Monday morning, I had an email from Dad. "Linda told me what happened at your event. She's very upset. She's saying you publicly humiliated her. I don't know what to think anymore." I wrote back. "She showed up uninvited to my work event. I told her the truth. If she's upset, that's her choice. I love you, but I meant what I said. I'm done." He didn't respond. By Wednesday, I heard through my Aunt Carol that Linda and Dad were separating. Not divorcing yet, but Dad had moved into a furnished rental across town. He'd told Linda he needed space to think. I didn't know how to feel about that. Sad, relieved, guilty, even though I knew I shouldn't be. Jordan took me to dinner that Friday. "How are you holding up?" "I don't know. I keep waiting for it to hurt more." Maybe it already did. Maybe this is just the scar tissue. She was probably right. The following week, I got a message on LinkedIn from Emily, my stepsister. I didn't know about the money. I'm sorry. My mom told me you helped a little, but I didn't know it was that much. I didn't know a lot of things. I'm not asking you to forgive her, or me. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I stared at the message for a long time before I responded. Thank you, I appreciate that. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was acknowledgement. Maybe that was enough. At work, something shifted. People had heard the speech or heard about it. A few younger women on my team approached me separately, tentatively, to say it had resonated. One of them, a coordinator named Jess, told me she'd been sending money to her alcoholic brother for years and had finally stopped. Your speech made me realize I was enabling him, she said. So thank you. I didn't know what to do with that. I'd just been trying to survive, and somehow it had mattered to someone else. Marcus and I crossed paths at a site visit in late March. He was overseeing a new safety training rollout, and I was there for a quarterly review. How have you been, boss? He asked over terrible break room coffee. Better, you. Good, busy. They're promoting me to site supervisor next month. Marcus, that's fantastic. He grinned. Yeah, well, someone put in a good word. I smiled into my coffee cup. Before I left, he stopped me. Hey, Ms. Harrison, that night, the Christmas Eve ride, I've thought about it a lot. I just want you to know you handled it with a lot of grace, more than most people would have. I didn't feel graceful. That's usually when it counts most. I drove back to the city thinking about that. In April, the house sold. I didn't hear it from Dad. I saw it on Zillow. The listing went active, pending, sold in under 3 weeks. I looked up the sale price, $340,000, enough to pay off the mortgage and give them each a small cushion. Linda moved to a rental townhouse on the south side. I saw pictures on Emily's Facebook, smaller, plain, nothing like the house she'd ruled over for 2 decades. Dad stayed in his rental. He asked me to coffee in May, and this time he looked steadier. I'm sorry, he said, for all of it, for not seeing, for not protecting you, for letting her. He stopped. I was a coward, and you paid for it. Yeah, I said, I did. I don't know if I can fix it. You can't, but we can start over if you want. I do. It wasn't a happy ending, but it was honest. We started having coffee every other week. Sometimes we talked about Mom, really talked, sharing memories, letting her be present again. Sometimes we just sat and read the paper. It wasn't the relationship I'd wanted, but it was real. And that was more than I'd had before. It's October now. I'm sitting on my balcony with a glass of wine, watching the city lights flicker on as the sun sets. It's that perfect early autumn temperature where you need a sweater but not a coat, and the air smells like wood smoke and possibility. I spent last week in Denver doing a site opening. Next month, I'm going to Vancouver for a conference, and I'm staying an extra 3 days just to explore. I've started doing that, building in time for myself, for things that aren't work or obligation. I'm in therapy, actual therapy, every other Tuesday with a woman named Dr. Chen who doesn't let me get away with anything. We're unpacking decades of people-pleasing and the belief that love is something you earn with competence and compliance. It's hard, but it's working. I had dinner with Jordan last week, and she told me I seem lighter. You are, she said. It's like you've been holding your breath for years and you finally exhaled. Maybe that's true. I see Dad once a month. We're careful with each other, but there's warmth there now. He started seeing a therapist too. He told me he's reckoning with a lot of his choices, a lot of years of taking the easy path. I'm proud of you, he said last time. I should have said that more. You can say it now. Linda and I haven't spoken. I heard through Emily that she got a job at a department store, part-time retail, that she's dating someone new, that she tells people I had a breakdown and cut off the family. I don't care. Let her tell whatever story she needs to tell. I know the truth. I've been thinking a lot about that night, standing on the porch in the cold with my suitcase. How small I felt, how humiliated. If I could go back and talk to that version of me, the one who was still hopping they'd open the door, still believing she needed their approval to be whole, I'd tell her this. You're going to be okay, better than okay. You're going to learn that the people who love you don't make you pay rent on their affection. You're going to build a life that's yours, messy and imperfect and sometimes lonely, but honest. You're going to stop apologizing for taking up space. And one day, you're going to stand on a stage in a green dress and tell the truth, and it's going to set you free. I've learned that boundaries aren't cruelty, they're self-respect. I've learned that no is a complete sentence, and you don't owe anyone a justification for protecting yourself. I've learned that you can't buy love, and you shouldn't have to. I've learned that the family you choose, the people who show up, who see you, who celebrate you without strings attached, is more real than the one you were born into. And I've learned that sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is stop waiting for people to see your worth and just start living like you already know it. Marcus texted me last week. He'd given the Uber driving after his promotion, but we stay in touch. He sent a picture of his new office with the caption, "Small but mine. Thanks for believing in me, boss." I sent back, "You did the work, I just saw what was already there." He replied with, "Same to you." And maybe that's it. Maybe we spend so much time waiting for the people who are supposed to love us to see us that we forget we can see ourselves. I'm not going to tell you that everything is perfect now. I still have hard days. I still sometimes wonder if I was too harsh, if I should have tried harder, if there was some magic combination of words that would have made Linda love me. But then I remember the spreadsheet, the locked door, the pocket dial where she called me self-important. And I remember that I didn't do anything wrong. I just stopped doing something that was killing me. If you're listening to this and you're in a similar place, if you're the one who always gives, always smooths things over, always makes yourself smaller so everyone else can be comfortable, I want you to know something. You don't owe anyone your exhaustion. You don't have to earn love. You are allowed to walk away. And the people who are supposed to be in your life will still be there when you set boundaries. The ones who aren't, they were never yours to begin with. Someone asked me recently if I regret cutting them off. I don't. I regret the years I spent trying to make myself acceptable to people who were never going to accept me. But stopping, setting boundaries, choosing myself, that's the best decision I ever made. So here's what I want to know. Where are you listening from right now? Drop a comment and tell me. I love knowing where these stories reach. And if this resonated with you, if you've been the one locked out, literally or metaphorically, by people who should have loved you better, leave a comment. Tell me your story. You're not alone. I see you. Hit subscribe if you want more stories like this. Real stories about boundaries and justice, and what happens when you stop playing by rules that were designed to keep you small. And remember, you are not too much, you are not too little. You are enough, exactly as you are. The people who are meant for you will know that without you having to prove it. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for listening.